Oh, yeah, yeah.
presentation available on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, straight. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, which has been organized by Fundación Ibertivis. As you all know, this is the last dissemination event of the DILAN project, which started in 2023 and is going to be completed by the end of the month. First of all, I'd like to thank Fran and Daniel for making this final event come true, for reaching such a high number of participants from across the world, as I can see. And I would also like to thank all the members of the DILAN project. DILAN stands for Digital Language and Communication Training for European Scientists, for this trust, for the support, for the hard work in the past 3 years, and for helping me in this major achievement that I think we've made. Have prepared just a very short presentation, but perhaps Daniel can share with everyone.
Yes.
I'll be happy to share it with all participants in this webinar too.
Okay, let me know if you see your presentation.
All right.
Okay.
Can you all see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Yes, we can. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for your feedback. Yeah. Well, DILAN, as I said, stands for Digital Language and Communication Training for European Scientists. DILAN is an Erasmus Plus project co-funded by the European Union. DILAN was designed to address the needs for digital language and communication training for European scientists and scientists around the world using interdisciplinary approaches. A key social priority for European scientists in communicating science to broad publics was our main priority as well when we set up this project. And this priority is necessary because by supporting this priority, scientists and researchers can address global issues, foster public trust in science, confront misinformation, and promote democratic participation by enabling informed decisions. So the DILAN project recognizes the need for scientists from first stage researchers to yes, that's the slide. Yeah, thanks so much.
Sorry, I jumped the third one. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, it was good to have a look at the partners, which I will explain later. Well, as I was saying, the DILAN project aimed to recognize the need for scientists from first stage researchers according to EURASIC's profile descriptors, but also to leading researchers to develop digital readiness, resilience, capacity to meet the challenge of digital transformation. So DILAN introduces innovative teaching and learning to do so. And now we can move on to the next slide, please. Yeah. DILAN is an international cooperative partnership. It involves, as you can see in the slide, 8 partner institutions. 6 institutions are higher education institutions, 2 from France, 2 from Romania, 1 from Norway, and then Campus Iberus, which is a consortium of universities in northeast of Spain. But the partnership also includes 2 small and medium-sized companies, which has been very relevant to a project, which are Fundación Ibertivis and Campal Data Solution. We also have 2 associated partners that I would like to acknowledge today as well: Université de Grenoble from France, and then the University of Westminster from London, from the UK, who have also been supporting us in disseminating the project and in other actions. So the main purpose of the project, exactly, yeah, was to find ways of bridging research, communication, and society. And this was our main challenge when we set up the project. We understood that digital transformation involved challenges for researchers across the world because they need to engage in new forms of science communication that are available on Web 2.0, the interactive web. And to address the challenge, we were very much aware that we needed to create or establish international collaborative network to develop innovative language and education training resources, which, as I will explain later, involved the creation of 2 courses, online courses, a short course and a MOOC, with possibilities to learn science communication in Web 2.0 in an asynchronous or blended learning way. And in the next slide, I'm going to explain how we set up the project and establish these 4 work packages to develop actions and then also results. On the screen, you can see work package 2 from left to right. Work package 2 involves an ethnographic study of digital science communication practices involving both male and female researchers from the different countries participating in this project. From this study, we developed a report on practices, attitudes, and training needs in European higher education. And then, as you will also see, study of female scientists' practices in digital SciComm, which resulted in video testimonials that I'll show you in a minute. Work package 3 involved the development of the digital training resources, which, as I said, included a short online course and a MOOC, massive open online course. But then it was also important to validate the development of these resources, and to do so, we set up work package 4, which engaged in piloting and implementation of training. And last but not least, we set up work package 5, development of the technological infrastructure, because we needed to find space on Web 2.0 to make all these resources available and additional resources that we have created and curated for all researchers in the web. And we can move on to the next slide. This is a screenshot of the report I mentioned on good practices in science communication. It's an open access resource and it's available in DILAN's Nodo community. You may want to have a look at it with very interesting findings. And then in the next slide, I have included a screenshot of the teaser. This is also one of the deliverables, the results of the project. We were able to compile very relevant video testimonials from female researchers in Europe. They were very willing to support DILAN and they participated in these video tutorials. They are available on our website as well. This is also part of the project results. And then in the next slide, I have included an example of a way that we have been using artificial intelligence to validate the quality of the training. Here you can see an example of a collaborative co-authorship network created or generated using a large amount of data. And the goal of the study that was developed by Compile Data Solutions was to understand the social context of science communication, that is to say, how researchers interact both within colleagues within their institutions, outside of their institutions, in different countries, in different languages, and so on. And this the kind of network that can be visualized. We also wanted to carry out this AI-based study to track female leadership and, as I said at the beginning, to validate the effectiveness of the training. And then the next slide, I have included a screenshot of the two main results of the DILAN project, the short online course and the MOOC, the massive open online course, which are available already. And then in the next slide, I have just included the screenshot of the e-platform. Remember psychomhub.eu. This is the platform in which you will all find the two courses and the resources that I said we have been curating and creating a supplementary material. Type 1 training course is a fully digital short course for graduate students, PhD students, and researchers. This course fits within both asynchronous and blended learning approaches. And the type 2 training is a MOOC style, open enrollment online course for self-directed learning. Scientists can learn how to use digital forms of communication in different ways and interact with other scientists. I'd like to say or to point out that this training was targeted not only at STEM researchers, but also we wanted to make it inclusive of non-STEM researchers as well, including those involved in social sciences and the humanities. And so, in the next slide, just reaching the end, I've tried to summarize what researchers can gain by getting involved in this course. Scientists participated in the DILAN training will, I think, we all think, unlock a powerful arsenal of modern communication skills, transversal skills, not just in English, but in different languages, in all other languages. First one, communicative competence. They will be able to develop writing skills effectively across diverse digital contexts. Also, multimodal and multimedia competence. Researchers will be able to leverage visual, auditory components and multiple digital channels, for example, websites, blogs, social media, to maximize the reach. They will also learn how to contextualize and articulate the value of the data to any audience, any internet audience, which is a diverse audience. And they will develop the art of recontextualizing complex scientific content so that it can be accessible and understood, right, by everyone on the internet. For example, through infographics, citizen science projects online, crowdfunding projects, and so on. And last but not least, by taking the training developed by the DILAN consortium, they will be able to effectively utilize some digital tools and resources that are to underpin all these skills. So in the last slide, I have added some quotes for all researchers attending this webinar, but then all researchers interested in the training of the DILAN project. Here's a take-home message to all scientists in the European Union and around the world. It's important to remember, to bear in mind that scientists' work holds the answers to humanity's greatest challenges. In this digital age, scientists' impact is no longer limited by the walls of the labs or the pages of academic journals. Scientists today are the vital link between discovery and society, more and more. So on behalf of the DILAN project, I would like to conclude this presentation by encouraging all of you researchers in Europe and across the world to embrace the training DILAN provides and learn how to translate groundbreaking findings into public understanding, informed policy, and of course, a better future for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carmen. It's been so inspiring chat, and we will love to everyone involved here and in this event uses our tools in DILAN to improve their communication skills. So I thank you again for your amazing work during these 3 years. So I'm going to give the floor to Colom Waring. He is the first of our key speakers today. Thank you so much, Colom, for being here. Colom is a project manager and a specialty in European Union affairs, and she is also an expert in communication. And we'd love to have you here, Colom, because we think that it's very important to know the vision of the European Commission about what the Commission expects from us as researchers. So please, the floor is yours. Thank you again for being here, and we are eager to hear from you. So whenever
Thank
you
you
want.
so much, Daniel. Good morning, everybody. So do you see my presentation well?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I work indeed at the European Commission, more specifically
maybe
at the
you
European
can
Research
put the
Executive.
presentation, because we are seeing your desktop is partially closed, but
Why?
maybe you
I
can
don't
put
know.
full screen.
Okay, sorry. I cannot do better than that, I'm
It's
afraid.
okay. We are seeing your slides.
Okay, sorry. You will get my presentation afterwards if you wish so.
Nice. Thank you so much.
So indeed, I work at the European Research Executive Agency, and we are implementing Horizon Europe projects. But I also, as Daniel said, follow everything regarding communication and boosting the impact of EU project. And my presentation will focus on that specifically. So first of all, I would like to begin by something super important, which is what are the results of your research or the results of your project if you belong to an EU project. So this is the most important that we want to know here at the European Commission. We are funding projects because we want those results to feed everything that we do at the EU level, including, of course, the policy framework of research and innovation that we are drafting, that we are designing here at the EU. What is very important for us at the Commission is that we are not inventing, communication or regulation or anything in research. We are really co-creating everything with you. So this is why, as policymakers, because everybody at the Commission are identified as policymakers, such as our colleagues at the European Parliament and at the Council. And I really want to tackle those three aspects, Commission, European Commission, European Parliament and Council, because the European Parliament and the Council are the one deciding about the budget. So when I begin by talking about the results of your project, you have to showcase the results of your project, because at the end of the day, this is where the money from the EU budget will come to the specific area of research where you are in. So for that, you have to showcase it and to communicate about it. When I talk about, here on my slide, I represented the main, I would say, stakeholders in which the research is involved. So research is not done in silo and not just for research, although, of course, we are funding that because this is the key area, but there are these other communities. Of course, the research community is super important. As I say, the EU policymakers that I described now and the member states, civil society, citizens, and industry innovators. I also insist on civil society citizens. For example, in Horizon Europe, where I'm working, we are in what we call the second pillar of Horizon Europe. And in this second pillar, we are funding everything regarding societal challenges. So those are the research areas that have an impact on citizens' life. And that's why I insist on that. So now a definition, I think it's always important. So when we talk about communication, sometimes it's not clear for everybody. Communication is everything that you do from the beginning of your project or research to the end. I mean, about raising awareness about what you are doing, reaching out to society. So as Carmen said, of course, here we are in a communication 2.0 now world, and this comes through social media, obviously, and it's more general. So everything that you are a specialist of your area and you have very high level research that you're doing, but when it comes to communicating it to the citizens, you have to explain it in a way that can be understandable by everybody. So you have to take the part of your research that will have an impact on everyday's life of a citizen. This is not always easy. I think this is why maybe sometimes you need training for that, but this is super important in order to boost your impact. Then my next slide. Sorry, yes. I had some very nice. So how do you do that? Science fair, of course, the magazines and social media, as I said. Next slide, I wanted to mention dissemination. And I want really to make the difference between communication, which is really communication to the general public, and dissemination, which is really talking more to your peers. I mean, so people that know what you're talking about. And here we talk about what you know perfectly well, so I'm not going to explain, the scientific publications, the magazines, and also the scientific conferences. So this is, I think, something to do particularly well, and it's absolutely part of your job, and it's perfect to do it. But it's not enough, I wanted to say. So now I try to summarize on these slides the different ways you can really make an impact about your project by communicating to the right people. And this is what is very important to know. So first of all, you have to define what is your communication about. What is the part of your research that you want to communicate about? Then you need to know to whom you're going to address these elements. And this is super important. We in a little jargon, we say target group. Okay, it looks a bit jargon, but it's definitely, am I talking to young people? Am I talking to an EU policymaker? Am I talking to someone in a member states? Am I talking to NGOs? You have to understand to whom you're talking. And when you know to whom you're talking, then you have to choose the proper means, to talk to this person. And here on the slide, I divided it into audiovisual, digital, face-to-face, and print. So I'm working on the biodiversity part of Horizon Europe, so we print less and less, obviously. But sometimes, okay, we need to print a very limited number of brochures or on leaflets showcasing the work. But all these elements are here. You have to know, it's not the idea, it's not a shopping list. You don't have to do everything that is on this slide, but you have to strategically decide where will I have a better impact. And that's very important. Social media, if there are questions afterwards, I can talk about that. Obviously, the social media landscape is changing. I would nowadays really think that LinkedIn is a key social media aspect for your work. And also, if you are doing a newsletter, for example, this is a key area to disseminate it widely. And then this depends, of course, on the research in which you are in. But when we talk about EU projects, you have an EU project, it's your project, it's your baby, you're very happy to be in, and this is perfect, and you have to do the best of it. But I'm afraid to say that at the EU level, and to have a proper impact for policymakers, it is not enough to be in your own project. You have to try to collaborate with other projects. Because, sorry to say, but we are funding many projects at the EU level, and it's difficult to reach really the policymakers if you're just staying in your own project. So you have to join forces to meet other projects and to try to do things together. So I divided here in joint activities, joint output, reporting. I mean, all the kind of areas where you can have an impact. I will just, because I have a limited number of time, to talk here about what I call joint policy briefs. So this is not for all projects, obviously, but this is something that is very important to understand. You have your research, you are working on something specific. What is a policy brief? This is, in fact, the policymakers are not going to read all the deliverables from your project. They are going to focus on what is the impact, what is the key results of your project. So a policy brief, in our little jargon again, is a way to translate in a short 2 pages document, what are the key results, what are the key recommendations that you want to do to policymakers, either to have more funding in the future, or that you have identified a research gap that is not done at the level of the member states or the region, so you have to brought it to the EU level. And here, this paper can go to the policymakers. We did that with a number of projects in the past, from 2016 until 2021. I was working on citizen science projects, and this came to a very high-level presidency of Germany to state that citizen science is a key area to be funded. That's just an example I want to say. And my last slide to finish is, why do I have to do that? I'm a researcher. I want to focus on my research. But why? What can I gain in doing all this? And that's something that I look like an extra work, which is this communication aspect. I'm not, and this is what I want to finalize my presentation by that. It's, of course, increasing the visibility of your project. And your research in general, enhance the reputation of you or your university, your research center. Definitely spread the knowledge, and by spreading the knowledge, you may also find other researchers and build the knowledge upon. Very important, I think, for everybody. Open up to other funding sources. You are in a scheme, you are funded by, either a member state, the EU, a specific program of the EU, Erasmus Plus, for example, but there are other areas like Horizon Europe that you could reach. And obviously influence the research policy framework. So through this policy brief that I explained, through some workshops that you can organize together, online or in Brussels, or coming closer to an MEP, member of the European Parliament, that could also support by giving you a chance to do a workshop in Brussels, your research. So with that, I thank you very much for your attention, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Colombe, for your powerful insights from the side of the European Commission. I think that just to get to know how do you expect from us as researchers, as people from communication, to get the right message to the right people in the right amount of time. It's so great. For everyone here, if you have any questions for Colombe, maybe we have 2 minutes to raise the question for her, and if not, we will continue to the other speaker right now. In any case, if you want to share your thoughts, we will have plenty of times in the second time of the event, and you can use the chat in order to have your questions, and we will get to the speakers in the right time. So maybe it's time to give the floor to Lucia Martinelli. Lucia Martinelli is a
I think there's maybe a question from Anna, if we have one. Yeah.
Hello.
Anna.
Hi, thank you. If we have time, otherwise we can also talk about it later. I just wanted to ask you a quick question about the policy briefs and the need to join forces with other consortium and other projects. Completely agree. But what is your experience in reaching out to European policymakers? Because a problem I encounter in my own projects is that we often are expected to work with bottom-up and co-design approaches. So we do a lot of work at the local level. So we interact with municipal, regional, sometimes national policymaker, but we need to do some, national policy analysis then to have the opportunity to interact with them, to understand their needs and so on. The European ones are so difficult to reach when we tried, So what's your suggestion or what are your recommendation for making something meaningful for them?
I fully agree. It's another type of stakeholders, but the good news is the following. Everything that you do at the regional, local level, every result that you get there is something that the EU policymakers want to know about. So it's not information that you just stay at this level. So I took the example of knowing who is the member of the European Parliament, which is working in the committee of your specific research area. This is, I'm sorry to say, because nobody really think that, but this is super transparent. You go on the website of the European Parliament, you look, for example, of the member of the European Parliament of your own member states. But if you are in a consortium, the beauty is that you have, of course, different member states involved. And you see if it's written in it, if they are involved in the committee, because we have 20 committees at the European Parliament, that where it's interesting to for your research topic. And there you have you have the emails, etc. So you can really reach them in a very easy way. So that's one way to do it. And you say, okay, this is my research. If you come alone, I say maybe they won't have time for that. But if you say this is a research and we have a joint research output together with different projects, and we are doing something at the local level as well that I want to showcase to you, this works. The other way, of course, is to go to the European Commission. So normally you have a project officer, someone, following your projects. In a way, you have a contact, like me, for example, at the Commission. And I facilitate also the delivery of this policy brief. But again, I want to say the policy brief has really to have I would not say a news like we say in an article of a magazine, but it doesn't have to be something super big like a scientific publication summarizing all the fantastic outputs that you get. It has to have an angle, a strategic angle saying, okay, this is what I saw and this is what I want to bring to the EU level. So it has to be local, and at the same time to have a European angle. That's maybe the most difficult part, but I think this is something to be discussed among the consortium and with the joint collaboration, if you have any, and it works. I can tell you it works. It takes some energy, some resources, I agree, but it works. So never think that it's too difficult. And this is what in Brussels we are looking forward to receive, really. But we cannot have individual little things on everything. That's what you have to understand. We have to have really a strong message and a strong output. So courage, Anna, and I'm sure you will get there.
Let's see.
Thank you so much, Anna, for your question, and we are willing to hear from you in the next part of the event, your experience with your recent policy brief. So thank you so much, Anna. Okay, if there's no more questions for Colombe, again, thank you so much for being here, for transmit with such an energy your insights about science communication and how we have to deal with you in the European Commission. So thank you so much. I'm going to give the room to our next presenter here. She is Lucia Martinelli. Thank you so much, Lucia. I will try to share my screen with your presentation. So let me see if I am doing it right. Everyone see Lucia's presentation?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much. Lucia is a senior researcher, she's a biologist, and she is the president of the, of the European Platform of Women Scientists. So it's really a pleasure to have you here, Lucia, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for the program of this Erasmus Plus project, which is very interesting. I think it's very, very important topic. Okay, my background is twice, I'm biologist, but I have a master's degree in science communication. And this gave me the opportunity to work in two different environments. The most part of my life was in genetic labs in Italy and abroad, studying transgenic plants and genetically modified organisms. The other environment was a modern science museum, Muse Trento in Italy, where a museum of new conception where public engagement and inclusion are the heart of projects and activities of the museum. Even the architecture, also architecture, I think, is communication, of the museum reflects the idea of communication, openness, because it is transparent, large glass walls. They want to symbolize the openness of the science to the society. The museum is an agora, a place where scientists, citizens, institutions, policymakers can meet and exchange ideas. Why I needed to engage with policymakers for my activities? For many reasons, like probably all of you, to get funding for my research, to bring the results of my research, my innovation, into the society, to promote values about the impact of science and technology, to advocate for fairness and justice in science, and also to support equal opportunities, especially for women and minority groups in science. In fact, science and policy are closely connected, as we have seen today in the presentation before my presentation, because science can guide policy with evidence, with knowledge, but also politics can shape research, deciding what to fund, like we have just seen in the other presentation. Sometimes also science becomes a political debate. We had this experience during COVID-19. We have the case of climate change, artificial intelligence, and other technologies. Okay, yes, this is, sorry, I forgot to tell you next one. This is the museum.
Yeah, just for you to know, your camera is off. We are hearing you perfectly fine, and it's up to you. You want to turn off the camera or leave it that way?
No, should be open. Probably because the one in the telephone is closed, but the one in the computer is open. I see myself.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so you can see, my plants in the laboratory in this morning. And then this was the picture of the Museum of Science. It was very beautiful, and you see open agora. In the next slides, I would like to show you this picture, how you can get attention to, I could get attention to the policymaker with a direct contact or through the society. In particular, through the society when the public opinion influences the decisions. I took this picture in May 2000 in Genova, in Italy, during the first major Italian protest against a congress on biotechnology. As for the topic communication, I like to stress that this one of the first, probably the first European protest organized by the no global community through internet. Internet was at the beginning, So the society, the Protestants, the no global community start connecting each other with internet. And the first time was in Seattle. A few months before, against the G20, in this picture, I think that you can see a line of police separating the scientists from the protesters. So I think that, I think that this picture can symbolize two very different visions of biotechnology, but above all, highlights the gap between the science and the society. So the question raised from this picture, I think, is how should science relate to the society, and what kind of communication earns trust and credibility? In fact, nowadays we live in what has been called the post-academic era of science, where the society has a bigger role than ever in shaping science. And this is why the concept of responsible research and innovation, with transparency and, of course, communication at its core, is essential. In the next one, or maybe we can stay here. No, you can stay here. You can, you can go back again. I think that the GMS, the genetically modified organism case, is a paradigmatic example about communication and policymaker. The European policies concerning the GMOs show how is important the public opinion in shaping the science policies. In fact, in the USA, the GMOs are regarded as with the concept of substantially equivalent products. It means that they are considered equivalent to the traditionally bred crops. But in Europe, instead, the regulation focus on the technique to produce them. So we have two visions: consider the product or consider the technology. And this was because the society was very concerned about this new technique, you know. In fact, even new plant breeding methods, which don't transfer genes between species, are treated according to the regulation concerning the genetically modified organism. It took 15 years for scientists to convince the policymakers that these new products are different from the GMOs and they need different rules. So only this year, the European community started to open the doors to the possibility to revision the regulation concerning the inclusion or a different regulation for the new products of breedings with new techniques. Of course, the communication involved not only the policymaker, but also the society, you know, with conferences, and also I think media are very, very important, you know, always very important in the communication. This is also another example that the language matters a lot. In fact, the scientists introduced terms like cisgenic to make the difference between the trans, you know, which is more scaring, and genome editing. Editing is less strong as compared with modification, modified. You know, you are very intrusive, you modified. And in Italy, for the new techniques, we use assisted evolution techniques, a phrase that suggests the natural development, because evolution is something natural, with also careful guidance, because assist is different from modified, you know. So the words are very important. In the next slides, I would like to share with you my experience with the policymaker, with the contact with the policymakers, as president of the European Platform of Women Scientists. I represent the interest of women in science, and you know, this is an umbrella organization, including a lot of scientific association. Also, the Spanish Association is a member of the European platform. Okay, our work is to break barriers, promoting diversity, and making sure that research itself don't carry biases. In fact, beside the structural changes to empower the presence of women in science, there is the need to change the culture of science. This also concerns the way research is designed. In fact, theoretical approaches and application often reflect conscious or unconscious biases. For this reason, the concept of gender innovation and intersectionality should be considered in the scientific projects. The platform, of course, communicate with the policymaker through position papers, in particular where funding programs are planned, and through conference and direct meetings. From the end of 900s, the European policies have improved a lot the opportunity for women in science, and in particular since 2020. However, the statistics show that there are still a lot of work to do. And in particular, I think we have to think that terms like gender, equality, diversity, inclusion, nowadays are sometimes seen as controversial, if not considered also against the policies of some states. This is the case, for instance, the United States, you know. So it's important to be careful that also Europe will not go in this direction. And so the platform is working for this goal. And it's important the contact with the policymaker, especially the one who have a democratic vision to defend the values of equality, diversity, and inclusion. In the next time, I would like to show you the final example. I had the opportunity to be a member of the delegation W20, the Women 20. This is an engaging group for the G20, a strict contact with the policymakers of the G20. There are G20 are 19 countries and Europe, you know. The goal of the W20 is advise the policymaker of the G20 on women's roles in the economy, in STEM, in science, in care work, in climate, and innovation in general. This is a clear example of how science, society, and politics can interact. We produce every year, no, this stay please in that, in the previous one, thank you. We produce every year a document for the G20 policymaker. My experience was in particular in presence, in the summit of Rio de Janeiro last year. The negotiation is very complex. The final document must be approved unanimously. So you have to consider that the political views different among all these countries. And sometimes we spend hours to discuss just a single word. Terms like gender-based violence or intersectionality were debated for a lot of time, really, and had to be rephrased. So gender-based violence is violence against women. So exclude, of course, transsexual, homosexual, which is because in some countries they are forbidden. And also intersectionality. So that you can use the word, for instance, woman in all their specificity. So they are taboo words in some countries. So this shows how important is the language in the policy communication, you know. In fact, the words carry values, and the vocabulary we choose can determine what is politically possible. In the last slide, in the conclusion, I want to suggest you to know more about a small group of scientists, but also with skill in communication. We prepared it's a free course online, which offer short self-guided modules, videos, articles, toolkits, just targeted to the scientific community. But what I would like to stress here is that we really try to avoid all the stereotypes concerning the social imagination and the stereotypes concerning science, not only in the when we represent the scientist, but also when we represent the imaginary of science and the language, of course. So this is a small, some experience I shared with you today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lucia, for your inspiring talk and for the work you are developing in your association. We have a couple of minutes in case someone have a question for Lucia. For us, for the DILAN Consortium, for the DILAN project, is so nice to have you here and hear from you your experience involving women in research, and we are very thankful for your participation here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, may I have a question,
Please,
Daniel?
go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lucia, for your presentation. Very nice. Yeah, having in mind your vision and your experience, how do you see the European role in this worldwide communication, and how do you see the vision that the external countries or external communities have on European researchers? Uh, did you see that this changed in the last years, or do you think that somehow we are in the same vision in European? My main question is how external entities see Europe in research.
No, sorry, I don't exactly understand.
Yeah, my main question is how Europe, how outside institutions, outside countries see European researchers, how the vision that they have on European science, European researchers.
You mean in the international context?
Yeah.
It's an important question in this moment, and probably Colomb can also answer you very well. I think we are very scared in this moment. If you read in the newspaper in the last time what Musk and also Trump are telling about Europe, is very scary because for this reason, I think that, like I said, we really need to have strong relationship with policymakers in Europe because. And also our governments, because policy is very important, and in this moment, for instance, in Italy, we have a big problem that people, especially young people, don't trust anymore the politics, then go to votes. Maybe also in other parts in Europe is the same, and this is something dangerous. We are living examples. And I think we have to show in our association, in our families, with our friends, how important is, again, the politics. Because politics are values, but this international situation, I think, is quite scaring. And probably Colomb, sure, can.
Yes, if I may, Lucia, if I may. Indeed, I think Europe is really pioneer on all these aspects of women, gender, and all these aspects in research and innovation. The good news, let's be optimistic. This is my personality per se, but I know the context, the political context and the international context is complex. But I think, first of all, at the Commission's level and in general in the EU institutions, there's a strong support of everything regarding women in science and all these aspects that you very clearly presented. And there's also, as you have heard probably, all these aspects about choose Europe. So, I mean, any researchers from any country and not feeling that the research he or she can do regarding all these aspects of gender can be really done. And of course, I mentioned here the United States. They are very welcome in Europe. So Europe will stay strong on this aspect. Obviously, we all know that in even EU countries, we have some populist governments that are raising around. So I think the work that you do, Lucia, and that everybody should do, I think at the EU level, should continue to be strong and not scared, really, because the political support in Brussels is here. And we cannot abandon that. On the contrary, and I give an example. It's not exactly, I know, the field that you mentioned, but for me it's super important. Let's take Horizon Europe evaluation of EU projects. You have at the end 2 ex aequo proposals of excellent proposals, and you have to choose one. So we have 3 criteria, as you may know. So excellence, impact, and implementation. So first criterion, the best score in excellence. Okay, it's the same. So ex aequo. Second criterion, the best score in impact, as we mentioned before about communication, etc. It's the same in the 2 proposals. So okay. So then third criteria, the gender balance in the consortium. And this is the way your proposal will get the funding. It's not everything regarding gender that you presented, Lucia, but it's just really mentioning that these aspects is key. And also the gender plans that the university should develop. This is fully supported by the Commission. So my message would be, don't be scared. And of course, if you are tempted to go to another country on the other side of the Atlantic, don't, and stay here in Europe. That's my message.
Yes. No, thank you, Colin. If I may add something.
Please.
Yes, Colin, I agree with you. In fact, last November, we had an in presence conference, the annual conference in Brussels, and we invited, of course, the representative of European Parliament and European Commission. What they say is, I agree, they similar to what you say, but they are a little bit scared. In fact, for instance, concerning the structural changes, the gender equality plans, the JEPs, they were very important to increase the presence of women in the institution, in science. Now we are talking about science, but in the new document, there is a small change. In the past, it was that the director of the institution has to sign the gender equality plan. In the new one, is may sign. It's a little bit different, because you give less power to the JEPs, because it's more important if the director supports this structural change, or could, if he wants, it's different, And so you're right. For this reason, we have to be strong enough, to maintain what we obtained. And as you said, it's very important as compared to other countries. And last but not least, one of our speakers was a lawyer, and she said, remember that in our constitution, we have the concept of equality. So nobody can say it's not anymore, it's against our politics, because we have in our constitution. So we have also to defend what we obtained.
No, Lucia, I fully agree with everything you said, and I really want to stress something. It's also a lesson for us. I think here around the table, we're all convinced about what you presented, but it's for everything. I'm working on biodiversity, and it's also complex at the moment to work on biodiversity, as you have heard in the news. So it's the same for women in science in general. The message that you have to draw has to be strong, but not, how to say that, I don't like to say it, but I have to, sorry, not too provocative in a way. You see what I mean? Because we are not even in Europe, I agree with you, all with among friends. I mean, we have member states like, okay, let's point Hungary, for example. They are not, I mean, totally in favor of those jets, to be honest. So we have also, and this is for me, again, communication and science communication, to adapt our message, but not to change what we are doing. You see what I mean? But we have to know that we are not in a full positive environment when it comes to these aspects in science.
Mm.
So you said activists during your presentation. I like activists. I think we need them, but we cannot have only this activist way to defend the positions, these positions on women in science. Sorry, I mean, it's a bit, maybe you don't like it, but this is the thing for me, not changing the substance, but maybe adapting the message a bit better. We can discuss later, Lucia.
Yeah. We are going to have a full hour to discuss it, but anyway, thank you so much for your strong defense of equality in research in Europe, and it's lovely to see different point of view about this matter. So thank you both for your interventions. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We have to move on. And we had a third key speaker, but unfortunately, she's not here right now, I guess, because we don't see her in the list. He was Gemma Revuelta, the president of the Spanish Association of Scientific Communication. She probably had technical issues or last-minute issues so she can be here right now. We apologize for her. But in any case, since the level of the debate is occurring this level, we can move on. Again, sorry, because we wanted to be with her, but she unfortunately she couldn't make it. So if you are all agree, we can give you a 2 minutes break until 12:10 or 12. 2 or 3 minutes in case you have to do whatever you have to do. And right after that, we will start with the fishbowl activity. We already have 3 amazing icebreakers who will help us to start the conversation. And yes, we are going to give you 4 or 5 minutes, and we will come back in 5 minutes to start the conversation. Please don't be shy. This activity is prepared for you to intervene, to ask the panelists, to ask the members of the DILAN consortium. We have plenty of experts here in science communication. We have plenty of communication technicians. So let's start the break, and we will see you back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to give the floor to Anna Skolovic. I don't know if I pronounce your last name correctly, so sorry, Anna. Anna is here on behalf of the Adaptation Agora project. It's an Horizon Europe project, I think. And you have recently published your policy brief. The aim of your project was the adaptation to climate change using citizen science methodologies and research methodologies. So Anna, the floor is yours. You have 2-3 minutes to share with us your experience developing this policy brief. And again, don't be shy. We are here to hear you, to share with you your experiences and dialogue together. You have part of the DILAN consortium as well. Colombia is here, Lucia is here, Carmen is here. So let's start. And thank you so much again, Anna, for your willingness to join us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Anna Skolobig. I'm a senior researcher and lecturer at the University of Geneva in Switzerland. We are partner in the Adaptation Agora project, a mission adaptation project that is ending in December this year. It lasted for 3 years, and we have been working on citizen empowerment for building climate resilient communities across Europe. So in our project, we have a number of pilots in several different European countries. And our main aim was really to find out how we can engage citizens and other stakeholders to really improve climate adaptation and implement also climate actions and solutions on the ground. So in one of the work packages of this project, we developed a policy white paper. It's not a policy brief. I'm a bit humbled to present our experience after the excellent presentation of Colombe Varin. I'm not sure we meet all the criteria that she listed, but I'm looking forward to briefly describe to you our experience and maybe learn from you how we could have done better. So basically, in this policy white paper, the idea was to distill the key lessons learned from all the pilots, but to focus on policies and policy change. So to move from bottom-up initiatives and all what we have learned in these initiatives to the next level of really driving and catalyzing policy change at regional and national level in European member states, because the assumption is that if we don't change, if we only change at the local level, we can only go so far. So we need also to change policies and to provide human and economic resources for citizen empowerment. But what resources are really needed? So this was the question, and what policy changes are realistic and can be done. So we did that by basically following a 3-step approach. First of all, we did, and I have to say, this is not only the results of the work conducted by my team at the University of Geneva, and I have so many people here to acknowledge, but also about the whole consortium. There is Ibercivis in the consortium. We have sorry, the timer is over. We have a number of other organizations. I take 2 more minutes if I can.
Yeah, it's okay, Anna. Go ahead, please.
So it's very brief now. And basically, together with all these partners, we had a first phase where ICLEI provided a synthesis of evidence of existing guidelines at European and also several member states and existing policies that really look into improving public participation, empower citizens for climate adaptation. So we had this big Excel database and a number of recommendations that have been provided. So first learning point. Second, the learning point was really to look into all what we have done across our project, in all the work packages, in all the fieldwork that has been done at the local level in Spain, in Germany, in Italy. And that allowed us also to further reflect and identify key recommendations and lessons learned. And then the third step and final one was the engagement with policymakers and the stakeholders working on climate adaptation across Europe. At that point, we already had a quite defined structure for our policy white paper. So we had a roadmap with 4 main pillars and 16 recommendations, but we wanted to collect feedback. Are these recommendations realistic? Are the pillar good enough? Are we, well grounded on reality or still too abstract. And we did that by participating in 3 different events: European Climate Adaptation Conference, European Urban Resilience Forum, Biennale in Grenoble in France. So, and in all that occasions, we had a workshop format that we used to systematically collect feedback. We reached out in total to around 70 stakeholders and policymakers. And then, based on all these 3 steps, we prepared the first draft of the policy white paper, and we shared it with all those involved that gave us, of course, their emails, beside the project partners, also all the stakeholders that we interacted with. And and that allowed us to further revise, refine, and come up with this document that we now have. And then just one last point, I also wanted to say in relation to all the discussion that has been done before about dissemination and communication, very critical was then that in our consortium we have a partner that is a science communication organization, and then they did all the aspect linked to press releases, LinkedIn, social media, and the support of this specialized partner was very important, also for the graphic design and layout of the policy white paper and so on. So, and I'm happy. I will share it in the link in the chat now if somebody's interested to have a look at it. But also I'm looking forward to discuss more with you, also about the process itself and how it could have been different. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe we have here some specialists, and maybe that we can share with them the expectations and the best route to disseminate your splendid not policy brief, white paper. So sorry. And yes, and if you want to leave the link to the policy brief, to the document in the chat, and also the very good mobile app with the quiz of the Agora Adaptation Project, we will happy to give you, and it's a very good opportunity to share with the attendees. So thank you so much, Anna, for being here.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to take questions. I see there are already some, but maybe we do it later as you wish, Daniel.
Yeah. Carolina is telling us that what are the biggest challenges when you recontextualizing the results on the study for a non-specific audience. This is one of the main questions that I think we will arise again and again during this conversation. So.
Yeah, this is a very important and tricky question, in the sense that we tried our best to do, a translation that in our case was a translation for policymakers. And I have to say that the idea now is also maybe in another project to do an extra mile and to really restart to deliberate on these recommendations more in depth with selected policymakers in selected member countries, because I think one of the biggest challenge for us in recontextualizing social and political science research, which is completely different from, medical science research, was to make it relevant at the level of each member state. So I still believe that, we try to provide recommendations that are cover European level, but then we need to go into the details of the legislative context of different countries to really provide detailed recommendation. And this was not foreseen in this project, but I hope that with the new projects we will be able to do this deliberation more in depth, with more depth on the national level legislation. So I think that's one point.
Okay, Thank you so much, Anna, for your answer. Okay. Yeah, it's really difficult to once you have defined the different stakeholders to change the language or to change the approach in order to reach as many people as possible is key and is fundamental. We will need more time, more funding, more another project to keep going. Yeah, I'm totally agree with you. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Daniel, can I just add quickly something to
Of course.
reply partly
Yeah.
to Anna? You know, also a way to reach and also to tackle this complexity that you mentioned about member states is to use bodies like Biodiversa Plus. If you know, you mentioned ICLEI, but Biodiversa Plus is what we call the partnership. So it's partly funded by the Commission and partly funded by the member states. And this is tackling all the aspects of biodiversity, climate, etc. And they have this mean to reach the policymakers and they want to gather all results from projects to make recommendations to policymakers. This is really a science policy instrument. So this is also a way, if you don't want to go yourself, because all I know it's time consuming to the parliament, etc., they do the job for you. Of course, it's a win-win situation, meaning they need results from the projects and they help stating that. And at the same time, for you, it's a saving time, if I may say so. But there's Biodiversa Plus, there's BioAgora, which is also a bit, and of course, ICLEI that you mentioned can help as well.
Thank you so much. I have heard of this, but I didn't know that they were dedicated specifically also to this, so I will definitely look into it. Thanks.
Yeah, and I want to take the opportunity to share with you all the results of DILAN project in order to have a clearer view once we try to communicate to no expert audiences. This was the main focus of the project. Allow researchers to have the proper tools to disseminate the word into non-experts. So this is my 2 cents on that, and I really appreciate if you can have a look to the resources of the project. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to give the floor to the next icebreaker, Jason Pridmore. I think you're here, and I appreciate your time. Jason is here on behalf of the Coal Cells European project, and is very close related to scientific communication. So, Jason, are you here?
I'm here,
Okay.
yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for being here. So the floor is yours, and we are eager to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm Jason Pridmore at Erasmus University Rotterdam, together with Science for Change out of Spain, and we co-coordinate the Coalesce project. We gave it a difficult name for many people, but it is Coalesce, which does mean come together. It's been pronounced many different ways, but it is a nice English word that does bring things together, and of course it does have a meaning behind it for every letter. But I'm happy to be here and to talk briefly about the development of the European Competence Center for Science Communication. That is our task as the Coalesce project that we are actively working on. I can put the links to the project and to the platform. Due to some technical and partner difficulties, the platform has been delayed a little longer than we had hoped, but we should have this up and available to everyone shortly after the new year in different pieces. And it will have a tool for crisis preparedness. It will have a library of resources that is going to be available. There is in the intention to have, well, we call it a SciComm Academy, but more, we did call it that, but more it's going to be about different resources and tools for trainings and development, including a matchmaking tool that should be about how to cross-connect. And again, this will come out in phases over 2026. We are in our 3rd year of our project. Next week we have our review meeting for our midterm after 36 months of the project. sorry, 30 months of the project. So, a little stress on us. But again, the point of this is to try and bring all of the different pieces for science communication. We do really well in science communication training and development across Europe. But I think we do not do well in terms of coordinating and making use of. So, for instance, the DILAN tools, we want to make sure that this is represented in a broader audience and have this highlighted as something that's quite specific on online, at least some of the tools that I know you all have done. But again, the idea here is that we're better together. Thinking with this. And part of what we've done in Coalesce is create Coalesce hubs. So in every country, the intention, or at least most countries, are intending to have a sort of a facilitator for connecting on science communication. I think that there's probably lots more I could say, but it's more about understanding needs here and what we are trying to do, and we're happy to talk. I'm happy to talk more about that.
Okay, thank you so much, Jason, and let's see what happened with the conversation. And of course, we are conducting different projects, but the more the better. We will share our experience with you. We've been looking at you closely during these past months. You're doing great. So many thanks for being here with us and sharing your experience. Please feel free to share the link of your project here in the chat, and let's see how conversation goes on. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump to the next icebreaker. This is my colleague Graham Sheriff from the Plan B project. This is a project that we are involved as Cyber Civis 2. It's another Horizon Europe project, and of course our dear Colomb is our project officer. So everything comes into place right now. Graham, do you hear me? Can you are you
Yes,
available?
hello everyone. Can you hear me? My microphone
Yes,
working?
of course. Graham is part of the researcher team of the project. We are conducting across Europe a survey on social perception of light pollution and noise pollution, and we have to transform the answers of this survey in actual recommendations for policy making. So, Graham, thank you again for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Danielle. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, as Danielle said, this is a project called Plan B about noise and light pollution, specifically related to reducing the impact on biodiversity and wildlife. My role, however, is from the social science and sociology and psychology side. And the reason for this is really that we recognise that noise and light pollution are caused by human activity. So we need to understand the kind of drivers, motivations, barriers behind different behaviours that contribute towards it. And one of the things we're doing is an online survey to a general audience. So this what I'm talking about here is not so much communicating our results, more about how we encourage people to contribute to our research in terms of collecting data. And I can see Danielle's just put a link to the survey. Thank you for that in the chat. And the survey then is wide ranging, and it's designed to try to get a good sense of how people kind of perceive noise and light pollution, how they see it in relation to other forms of pollution, such as air pollution, land pollution, and so on, radiation pollution, and then look at the kind of factors that might determine how people feel about noise and light pollution. For example, things like psychological concepts such as attachment to the night sky. If people really appreciate the night sky, does that mean they appreciate the problems caused by light pollution more? If people are worried about personal safety, does that make them more concerned about reducing light pollution? So we're looking at that, and also then the kind of acceptability of different measures, such as lowering light, for example, lowering light levels or changing the color of light, having quiet areas, curfews for nightlife, the nighttime economy, for example. So the survey we have it's been carefully designed, really, and It's always the proof is in the results, obviously, but what we've tried to do is design something that's easy to understand. We hope that there's always 200 questions that we'd like to ask in these surveys, and we always ask about 30 because you can't, you need to retain people's attention and not turn them away, make it too complicated. So we try to keep it quite simple. We've translated it into the 8 languages of our project, and give people the option to complete it in any of those 8 languages. That's partly a kind of practical reason that people may not be able to complete it in English, but also it's a kind of it's a slightly less tangible thing of just saying, look, we've made the effort to to communicate this widely and hope that that helps people connect with it. We've also offered a €50 prize draw for all participants, so we hope that will help to get people involved. And then we've distributed, as the other speakers just now have said, through sort of standard measures, sort of LinkedIn, Twitter to some extent, WhatsApp, email lists. We've got a few friendly organisations that are able to distribute it for us as well by email and through our own student and staff networks. It's quite challenging because what we actually want to do with this is reach the general public. We're not interested in reaching researchers and policymakers other than that they are the general public. But what we want to do is reach non-specialist audiences. So often the email lists that are most likely to send this out for us, and the people who are most likely to share it on LinkedIn are in networks who are sort of scientific or policy community. So it's quite challenging to reach that general audience. So as there's universities involved, one of the approaches has been to reach out to staff and students as far as we can. Universities often restrict how much we can communicate to students, but we try to reach out to our own students and so on. So it's been quite challenging, but we're very encouraged by the response so far, and it's currently open till Christmas. And of course, I'm going to, well, just before I say about completing it, the analysis itself then will look at different social groups, for example, age, gender, where you live, in terms of whether it's a city or an urban area, sorry, a city or a rural area, and how those factors may be associated with your attitudes towards noise and light pollution. So there'll be the statistical analysis, which we'll then share, hopefully in a nicely accessible way next year. And then there's a bigger step then of bringing that together with the other insights of the project to look at kind of implications for policy. And of course, I'm going to finish by saying, please complete the survey. Please follow the link. We want as many responses as possible. And please also tell all your friends and enemies. Just tell everyone about it. Thank you. Happy to discuss it or answer questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Graham. And I only wanted to add that the survey itself, it works like a communication tool to raise awareness to non-expert audiences to be part of this problematic about light pollution and noise pollution. So it's great the work that you've been doing so far. Because the survey itself works as a very good communication tool and a strategy. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We keep pushing to raise the more people, the better. We want a 1,000 answers target, and we are completely sure that we are going to get this number. So thank you so much for being
Daniel,
here.
may I just add something? Okay, I know well the project can be, and congrats for the survey. Yeah, please share it with your aunt, your cousin, etc. We really need a stronger answer. But I also want to say, coming to communicating science and communicating to policymakers, this particular project, Plan B, is led by the University of Gand in Belgium, and normally it's a biodiversity project, as you understood, but the coordinator is from the legal department. And I want to insist on that because it's important to understand that sometimes they also need a kind of interdisciplinary within the consortium, because the legal department of the University of Gand knows perfectly well all this EU legislation and all the actors of this EU legislation. And that has more impact about your research as well. So it's just an example, but something to get in mind. I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, and social science can lead European projects too. That is so cool. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have here our colleague Fermin Serrano. Fermin Serrano is part of the Vercibis team, is one of our teammates, and it was in charge of the coordination of the white paper on citizen science back in the 2015. And this white paper had a lot of interest and a lot of dissemination, and is a key part of the citizen science European strategy since then. And that's why Fermin also coordinates right now the REX concept project that aims to build an infrastructure of excellence in citizen science. So please, Fermin, are you there? Are you?
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel. I hope you
The
are
floor is
doing well.
yours.
Thank you and congrats for doing this. I want to share this experience of the delivering and co-creating the white paper and the green papers for citizen science in Europe in 2013 and 14. It's good to take the opportunity to have a decade, 10 years after, to take a look back and see what worked well. I think it's important to see really the effects of this long-term window for the policy outputs and uptake, because sometimes projects are really stressed about delivering policy impacts in very short term, and that makes it's not possible at all. In fact, we did have a lot of influence, a large influence in multiple levels. We did influence the European policies for citizen science, the member states' policies, but also at micro level, the institutions and groups did follow most of our recommendations. It was not our recommendations, in fact, it was the recommendations that we gathered from the community evidence. And that's very important. We were computer scientists, physicists, and so on. We were not specialists at all in scientific communication. Instead, we knew what we knew, and we co-created a kind of roadmap, a kind of framework, a kind of concept about what citizen science should be and how should it be working in the next decades. And for that, we used to say for the community, we are going to translate what we know into Brussels language. But in fact, I remember well and I want to acknowledge the key role of the European Commission officials at that time, who translated our insights and into the real policy language. But they also helped us to promote and to gain relevance and outreach and promote and disseminate the white paper. That was extremely useful. During 2 years, we collected in participatory workshops, online consultation, more than 200 inputs from individuals, citizen scientists and practitioners, crazy guys, but also from large institution networks and official institutions. And voilà, that worked very well. We translated those insights into a coherent, lightweight, impactful, and attractive design of the paper itself. It was not a PDF with a lot of text and paragraphs like usually policy briefs happen. Instead, we use, as I said, very visual, tricky elements, like, for instance, putting all the names of the authors of these contributors into the cover in very lightweight, reflecting and giving coherence to the transparency and co-ownership of the thing. And that's it. Now we are facing a similar process, co-designing the pan-European research infrastructure into the S3 roadmap for citizen science. And we are facing many similar difficulties, like bringing together different scientific communities, technological levels, and we need to address S3 roadmap, which is a complicated environment. But we are excited. If you want to contribute, please follow us in concept.rex.eu. I'm happy to stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your experience, Fermin. If I may add something, the white paper on citizen science is a very beautiful artifact, and it's very easy to read. It's very easy to disseminate. It's in the chat. You have the link if you want to have a look at it. And thank you so much for your inputs. And it's pretty good to see your experience 10 years after, and see the Annex experience just because they have just released the paper. So thank you so much. And now, if you anything wants to add something, to share thoughts, experiences, just for you to know, I only want to raise a question. Maybe it's a silly one, but why LinkedIn? What is happening with X on Twitter in terms of scientific communication? Where do you find your community? Where do you find your stakeholders, communities, in order to reach them and spread the word about your own project? And and we already stressed out that LinkedIn is the place to be right now, but what happened with the rest of the platforms?
I can begin shortly. I just want to say there's no official, and this is very important for me to say, there's absolutely no official recommendation from the Commission, from DG Communication, we have the Commission, to use this or this platform. So my recommendation, the one I did during my presentation, is really based on my experience and the experience of the projects and the results of the projects that we want to be impacted. So it's free to you to use X or not. I mean, for obvious reason, I think a lot of researchers have quitted X lately this year. So and this is maybe not the best platform to use. There are other platforms that can be useful depending on your research topic. I'm talking about Instagram for young people, definitely can be used. But I mentioned more particularly LinkedIn because there are different options, like the one to have your newsletter. And we also realized during the past 5 years now that sending newsletter via email and sometimes even as a PDF, well, that's really a disaster also for the environment, by the way. But okay, you can send also the newsletter via a link. But obviously, I think all of us we may have, I mean, too many emails in our inbox. So the fact to use LinkedIn is to have, for example, to highlight one article and then to put the link to the newsletter. So this has a better impact. And obviously also on LinkedIn, you can also tag some people that you want really, I mean, to mention. And okay, this has a better impact. But there is Mastodon, there's Blue Sky. I mean, there are plenty of other platforms that can be used. And I'm not wanting to limiting to LinkedIn, but I also think that we all need here on this table, I mean, a soft, professional, and I mean, pleasant way to share our information. We are not, you are not politicians, and we don't want maybe to get into conversations that even when we talked about women in science that are not, that have not any positive impact, but that has not impact at all on science. So definitely we need that.
Yeah. In terms of impact, yeah, you are absolutely right. One of the main tools that we are using to spread the word into our European projects is the newsletter. Sometimes it's difficult to collect the right amount of subscribers or the email directions, and we found that the LinkedIn tool to spread the word through its own newsletter, it's a very good way to communicate our findings and our achievements. So in terms of impact and in terms of analytics, we see that many people subscribe to our newsletters through LinkedIn. And the thing that we do is to duplicate and to use the same content into the I don't know, the MailChimp tool to spread the word through the newsletter, and you can replicate the content inside the newsletter tool in LinkedIn, and it works pretty fine. But I'd love to hear from you. Anna, for example, you have your hand raised, so please.
Yeah, no, just a little comment, maybe a bit provocative, but I'm wondering what happens if LinkedIn will fall down.
Yeah,
Like
of
we
course.
saw with X. I mean, for me, it was shocking to see how quickly, the landscape of research moved out from X, myself included. I think it was in a matter of a year or maybe even less than that, that before everyone was publishing first there, maybe secondly LinkedIn, and then everything suddenly changed. So first of all, do we have a plan B beside the project? But a plan B if LinkedIn will also, have a sudden change, because this social media landscape doesn't seem to be predictable. And then the second point is that anyway, LinkedIn, I mean, even if is the only platform I now use, also for a matter of time. I mean, I'm not a digital communication researcher, so I'm there just to communicate, disseminate, and so on. But it takes time, and then realizing that all the efforts done in X are just gone, and nobody, well, myself, I will never go back to it. I mean, it's one point. The second one is that LinkedIn actually is a job related platform. That's how now it has changed, it's different. But still, I'm wondering if we haven't given enough thought on this, and the fact that I know also the European level for our projects, we have the most fancy websites these days with a huge amount of resources dedicated to them, but actually no sustainability in the long term, because we dedicate so much for these websites and then they are gone as soon as the project is over, because nobody has the funding to sustain them. So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't think about something else that is where the community meets independently from this, glowing new project and website with, all that. So I don't know, what do you think?
Yes, Anna, these are all elements that are absolutely crucial and that you tackle well. So myself, for working 20 years about communication, I can tell you the landscape is changing all the time. So be prepared. That's the only thing I want to say about this specific question. But now when it comes to, that's nothing new. It's not just linked to the last geopolitical or political changes in the landscape. The second thing I want to say, and that's, I think, very important, yes, you need a website for an EU project, but there are also all the platforms that I mentioned before that can help. So Fermin talked about citizen science. There's the EXAT, so the European Citizen Science Association. This is a platform. So when you are developing your project, although you need your website, definitely EXA is a portal and can also host your information. So always think about what will happen after. And yes, unfortunately, maybe for 2-3 years you will maintain it. But not more than that. Second thing, what we also recommend at the EU level. So you have your project, which is super important, but you also have other projects related to your research. And what we, again, little jargon, sorry for that, EU jargon, we like at the EU level that we have what we call these clusters of projects, and that you work together in this cluster. What happens, which is nice, is that they are, if, the piece of research, which most of the time is the case, is absolutely relevant, they are projects from different generations. I talk about generation, meaning when they are funded. So your project is ending, but definitely all the results and all the material from your project will be used by the ongoing projects using either LinkedIn or either their own platform or other things. And last but not least, again, Biodiversa Plus, BioAgora, this partnership, they continue over the time. So it's 90 million that we give to them, and it continues. So you're not alone, just to say. Don't think that what you do is just will disappear. Huh? So be confident confident and liaise with others. I think that will be my main point. I would collaborate on the slides, but I would liaise with others.
Okay, Jason, please.
Yeah, I just want to add one of the things that I notice well, again, we're focused on science communication, but the crossover with citizen science, with public engagement, with science for policy is huge. And there's a lot of overlap that we don't recognize. So one of the struggles we're having with Coalesce is, why are we not actually talking to each other? We have our own separate sort of meetings or events. And it's one of these key things that I think in the next coming years, we need to have more conversations about where does citizen science cross with science communication? Where does that cross with public engagement? Where does that cross with policy, participatory research? All of these processes that we all know exist, and we all, most of us sort of filter in between those, but have a home in one. But there's not a lot of times where we come together. And so this also should be about how do we communicate better about other projects and work and interesting research and plans, but it's also about knowing each other. And this thing, I think, should be part of where we go in the coming years to make things more effective across all of these range of activities.
Yeah, the point is to find the common spaces to share our experiences. Yes. For example, in our Plan B project, we try to set a network of sister projects or projects that have the same aims, and we call it the Plan B network. It's easy to understand why. And we work closely with our sister projects in order to share experiences, and on top of that, to share resources in order to communicate better, doing since brochures or space in each website. And that brings me another question that I want to arise, and maybe to finish this event, is that regarding the social media question, I'm always being so, I don't know how to say in English, that so hard. My point is that we have to preserve our own content in our own websites, and the cycle of the information, of the communication cycle, has to be from our places, our safe places, if I may talk, to social media, no matter what profiles, but be the owners of the content that we produce, be the owners of the communication tools. I'm pretty agree with you, Anna, that once the project ends, we have no more funding to maintain this structure. Maybe we can start thinking in our proposals to a sustainability plan or something like that, and get funding to preserve our findings in right after the end of each project. Or maybe we can keep searching for places like Zenodo or something like that, where our deliverables, our findings, our papers can be accessible for the long term. I realize that these give private companies some kind of power to our work, but in the meantime, maybe we can start searching for the EOC platform, for example, to preserve our work and make them available for everyone. It's a tricky question. We don't want to give to private companies such as X or LinkedIn or whatever our content, but it's the way that it is. But that's why for me it's so important to keep our findings in our websites and try to preserve them as long as possible. And these are my 2 cents. Thank you, Jason, for your comment. Yes, we need to share common spaces for bring all the people together. And pretty much that's it. We are 1 a.m. o'clock.
Yeah, if I may, Daniel, only one thing to this is that the European Commission is now helping is raising or funding a lot of projects. Our federation of content So I think that maybe this is the short-term future of how information is going to move around some different platforms, and the information is going to move with federation. We will not depend on external entities or companies, as you say, to host this information, but the information will move around different platforms. And if one platform goes down, it doesn't matter, because other platform will host this information that has moved in the past. So I think that this is for me, that I am a little bit technician. For me, it's like I think that the European Commission is doing very well, trying to funding or trying to get this technology to happen as soon as possible, to host the information all together and not depend on external technologies.
Yeah. That would be great. And I'm reading your comment, Anna, about there is so little space to share and to have this open access policy in order to maintain our content. I think this is my 2 cents, but in the next years we will have to keep dealing with these private companies that are so big, so complex, and so powerful. But in the meantime, we have our own websites, we have our communities, we need to go back to the. This is a thing that we talk a lot with Fran, with the old forums, and where communities are built together and ensemble, no matter what. I don't know. And Carmen, please.
Yeah. Just my 2 cents, and I think if we have the time to.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right. Just some thoughts. First thing, I would like to thank everyone. I would like to thank the keynote speakers that we had, the participants that we had in the fishbowl, all your contributions, also the high number of attendees that has also participated in this webinar, and also, of course, our colleagues in the DILAN consortium. I was thinking that perhaps we could have had this conversation at the beginning of the project, and that would have been great inspiration to all of us.
Yeah.
But I'm also very happy to see that when we decided to set up DILAN, we clearly identified a number of challenges that are to date relevant, very relevant, for communicating science and for reaching broad publics, reaching citizens in the EU and elsewhere. And I would also like to take the opportunity to advocate the role of language specialists and language educators, because after all, everything that we have been discussing today has to do with ways of using language and ways of profiting from the language repertoires that European Union citizens have. And I think this is an asset compared to other countries or other regions, of course. And I was just interested in sharing these last thoughts with all of you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and very, very well introduced, because at least for me, for the last 3 years, the meaning of the language and the communication tools has been increased, and it was a pleasure for me to be being part of this consortium. So maybe, Carmen, since you are here, you can close the event and to take the opportunity to thank you all, to thank you to the DILAN consortium for your amazing work. Please go to our DILAN website and see how many resources have been developed. The Moodle platform is already up and running. We will present to you properly, maybe by email, and with the rest of the final arrangements of our project. So please, Carmen, the floor is yours for the last time, and we close the event.
Again, I'd just like to thank everyone. As I said, keynote speakers, and then participants in the fishbowl, then also all attendees, my dear DILAN team, DILAN consortium members. And of course, Daniel and Fran for organizing this amazing event. It's been a pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm sure that we will manage to get back to you with the very latest updates on the training, on the resources that we have created, and then also hopefully a video that we are also preparing to spread the word and to reach as many researchers in Europe as possible. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. With these words of Carmen, we are closing this event. We will keep in touch with you because we have all your emails. We will share with you our last findings and the platform and whatever is needed. And we are here from you as researchers. So please use the tools that this consortium has developed. And I think we will find it useful. For the icebreakers of the fishbowl, thank you so much again. Anna, Jason, Graham, and Fermin, Colombe, Lucia, thank you. A huge thank you for being here and be as powerful insights as usual. So thank you so much. And thank you all the participants and the attendees for being here. So
thank you.
See you on social media. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.